what were some of the things that you felt like were important to do as your team to build a culture? Because, a lot of these girls are coming in, and at least on the outside looking in, I'm sure a lot of them are comparing their body image and their skill levels to everybody else. And when oftentimes where people are very competitive, they can compare themselves to each other a lot, and that can probably cause infighting and some turmoil. So what were some things that you found that were important for you guys to do to maintain a good culture where everybody had a good rapport with each other?
Well, when you get a bunch of people who were the leader of their pack, whatever pack they came from, and now they're all together, and they all were like, well, I was homecoming queen and I was cheerleading captain. Well, now that's the whole room, right? And that's whether it's NFL cheerleading or if it's NFL players as well. I mean, they were all the best from wherever they came from. They were all Mr. Football, right? They were all, and now they're all together, and that is an interesting balance. We had a long audition process that was dance driven and interview driven. And so my portion of the scoring when they auditioned, and the veterans had to re-audition again, was 25%. And then the judges had 75%. And that 25% was really based on what I learned about them as a person. And, I used to tell the women, I said, my mantra is I want you guys to be, the woman every woman wants to be and the man every man wants to be with. Right? So I want you to be admired by both and not just be a pretty face. And it's hard to find people, women that are beautiful and fit and talented and success driven and women of character. And that's really what we looked for. And one of the things we first did when everyone came together is I would say, okay, everybody sit down, raise your hand if you were captain of your cheerleading team or dance team in high school or college. Whole room. Yeah. And then they'd all look around and they'd realize, and I'd say, okay, raise your hand if you were homecoming queen or prom queen. And then, 70% of the room.
Right.
And then, okay, raise your hand if you were student body president or class president, at least half the room. And so we started out with, that was day one.
Yeah.
With a mutual, I called it a mutual respect exercise.
For sure.
So you knew off the bat, you're not the only student body president here.
Yeah.
You're not the only homecoming queen here.
I mean, just those 3 questions, you can tell a decent amount about a person. Because, on the surface, a lot of people think that a lot of those roles might be selected off of looks or maybe like homecoming queen or prom queen. But it's really like if you're liked or if you're seen as a leader or whatnot. And so just off the bat, if you've never even had a conversation with the person, you have some sort of idea of what that person may be like.
Right. And that you're, that I was that and you were that too.
Right.
And so
commonality.
That we're, I'm not necessarily better than you. I am a really accomplished person, but I also know that you're also a really accomplished person.
Right.
So I wanted to set that stage for really mutual respect, and I think a good leader does that, is it lifts everyone up and let's make sure everyone knows that like we are all the best of the best, and competition is great, but you are now here and you're on a team where you might not be the captain of this team, even though you're the captain of every team you ever have been on.
Right.
So was everybody else. So, that was always where we started, and it let people have that expectation of, oh, okay, I don't need to walk in and say, well, when I was captain, well, so were you.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that really helped set that stage.
I'm sure. I think that's huge, setting a stage for mutual respect. I think that's my biggest takeaway from that, and that's awesome. When you first started, like you said, you were in your early 30s. A lot of these girls I know are early 20s, but some who had maybe been there for a few years when you first started were maybe mid 20s, and so not all that difference in age. Was there any difficulty on your side from a, like, it could be fear because I'm not that much older, or like did you feel like you struggled to gain respect early on because of the small difference in age or anything like that?
100%. In fact, the age difference was not small. There were women that were older than I was.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I always had women over 30. And so for my first few years, I had women older than I was and then my same age. And then, I kept getting older.
Right.
You get older, you get dead. Those are 2 choices. It's A or B. That's what it is. And, eventually there was a separation, but certainly those first few seasons, I mean, it was very pure, pure leadership. And so I believe a philosophy, that A's hire A's and B's hire C's. Right. And I'd like to think that I'm an A player. And I let the women, particularly the ones that had been there and I was coming into their world that they had already established, and they were my age or older, asking their input, understanding A's hire A's and B's hire C. I respect you as another A, and I want you to help me get better. Another thing I did when I first got there, and I inherited a team because they had an audition, and so they were already selected. It was the summer. And I gave everybody an index card, and I said, I want you on the front side to list 3 things that you love about this team and the culture and what's going on and you want to keep. And on the back, I said, this is now your opportunity to create a new culture. Let me know 3 things you'd like to be different. And I think that empowered them to understand that I wasn't going to come in and dictate how this was going to be.
Was there any glaring thing that ever popped up on one of those things where it's like, that really is something that I know how to change, or like we can start doing this because of this piece of feedback, or any like thing that stands out as like a biggest piece of feedback that you then implemented and worked well?
You know, whenever you do a survey like that, there's always going to be that bell curve that people know what's wrong, right? It's been a long time now, Nick, for me to be able to recall those actual specifics.
Right.
But what I can tell you is that I really took that feedback to heart. I wanted them to have a team that they felt, was their team, and they were empowered. And I was like, okay, you don't want to do it like this anymore? Great. I don't think that's a good idea either. So let's do it like this. There was more uniformity in what they wanted changed than how they wanted it done. Everybody had their own different ideas of how it should be, right? But, we had a handbook that, I think sadly has gone away. But we're very, a list of ways